And we are live. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Nicholas Downey from the Inner Circle. Welcome to the Gaming Perspective podcast, episode 37. I actually
not 34.
You know what, Sam? You have 3
right
episodes
out of the gate.
start.
Yeah.
You have 3 episodes start as episode 34, and you never get to live it down. I stopped copy and pasting the titles because I was lazy, and now episodes are back in the correct order, and all the previous episodes I think are fixed. So, welcome to the Gaming Perspective podcast, the most inconsistent podcast on a Saturday night. So, introducing my regular co-hosts, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Mr. Eric Jackson.
Good evening, everybody. What's going on?
And joining us from the fantastic land of, I never even asked where you live, so.
Canaders.
Oh, God, you live in Canada, too.
Yeah.
Poor unfortunate soul. Introducing what? Introduce yourself, sir.
Hi. Well, I'm Wout, often better known as the Hashtagonist on the internets. I am the host of 2 things. One is the Hashcast, which is a weekly show where I interview people cooler and more interesting than myself out of the games, movie and tech industry on a weekly podcast, and I am also the host of a terrible Twitter feed.
I'll disagree. Your food posts this past week have pretty much gotten me through my work week. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's new because last year I promised myself I would not get into silly food arguments, about the whole pineapple pizza stuff, and so now I'm getting everything out of my system by apparently eating food wrong. Like I just eat something and then people get mad at me. I don't know what's wrong.
I love the upside down chip bag. And those are awesome.
I kept it together. Like for the most part, I kept it together until the banana. As soon as you had the banana and half the spoon, I was like, "This is madness.
This is just madness."
I just remember clearly waking up late one morning. It was like 8 a.m. I was sleeping in on Sunday, and I woke up, and the first thing in my Twitter feed, as I'm blurry-eyed here without my glasses, was you just biting into that Kit Kat and not segmenting it properly. I'm like, that is not a good way to start the week. That is not a good sign.
That started it all because people get really upset if you don't eat a Kit Kat properly. And it's you're just feeding me. Like you're literally feeding me with your salty tears when I don't eat correctly. So
Well, who's to say that's not the correct way?
I know, right?
There was never a manual placed inside the candy bar.
It's still chocolate. I haven't heard from Kit Kat, so who knows?
I think next you should do Twix like side by side and just.
Oh, I did that.
You did do that. Okay.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you can find all his links are in the description below. I encourage you to follow him and whatnot. He has some pretty decent conversations about just about everything. So welcome. And we're going to dive quickly through kind of what we've been playing this week or films you've been watching and whatnot. So Sam, what about you? What have you been up to this week?
Honestly, work has been brutal, and I haven't really had a chance to play much this week. I dove back into The Witcher 3 a little, just toying around. That's just a comfort food game. Just a comfort food, I'm not trying to make a bunch of progress or whatever. Just taking pictures on Skellige and whatnot. And I'm going to... I was also playing a little bit of Overwatch, but I love Overwatch in general. And I'm also going to be trying to play Metro Exodus on Ranger difficulty and get all the collectibles and stuff. I'm working out like the timing in my head right now, which I know might sound a little weird, but when you don't have a lot of time to play, you got to maximize it and whatnot. So
I would suggest if you're doing Metro Exodus too, Mac has got that comprehensive 91 journal guide.
I'm already on it. Yep. Yeah, I have that video.
Because when I saw they had 91 collectibles in that game, I was like, well, I do not have the OCD and time required to give this much thought to it. So I just moved on with my life. But yeah, it's hard to find time for that kind of stuff. Eric, what have you been playing?
Let's see. Well, as you guys know, a little over a week and a half ago, I finished up Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And I'm going through like Bloodborne withdrawal. Because it's just, you finish it, but you just want more. So
you're 4 years late, but at least you understand what I was talking about.
Yes.
I never shut up about it.
But no, that was an amazing adventure. Sam and I still have to go. We're gonna do some co-oping, clean some stuff up. So looking forward to when we get a chance to do that. But other than that, I finished up Crackdown 3 actually a few hours ago.
Oh, nice. What'd you think?
Yeah. I stand kind of where I was. I don't know if you guys saw like my mini Twitter review. Like I said, it sits about where some of the reviewers said for me, like More like a 7 though, 7.5.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain if they would not have said it's like a threequel, just say, hey, this is a Crackdown revisit.
Mhm.
I honestly, truly believe that would have, for whatever reason, comforted a lot of people. Because Nick and I actually talked about this. I said, playing through this game, I kind of had this weird thing where it's like, I don't think I ever need to go back to the first game.
Where it's sort of like it's replaced the first game.
Yeah,
for
it's
you,
pretty much, it's done. It took everything that the first game did, but made it better. But that doesn't really say like threequel. You know,
Sure.
you get a 3 on it, you expect it to be a little better than what the first game did. I know people say, well, it's just more Crackdown. That's fine. That's fine. It's fun. But I kind of see what Nick's review said too. Like you start to get to the end and you kind of go, I'm kind of at a place where I just want it to be over now.
Mhm.
Yes, it's, and you get through it because there's not much variety. Like you go to every boss and it's like, you know how it is. It's just, doesn't really take much to figure out how to beat them, blow them up, hit them with whatever heaviest gun you have or whatever, keep moving. So I finished that up, and next I'll be moving into Resident Evil 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Crackdown actually came at a good point. It's kind of a good game to jump into after putting so much focus and intensity into Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that game you can just put on autopilot, and that's not a knock at all. It's just
no. It's just mindless fun. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like making ramen. You know, it's,
I feel you on that because I played Crackdown 3 after doing Resident Evil 2 on hardcore, and I went, "This is nice. This is nice.
Yeah.
I don't feel stressed. I don't feel like I'm going to go into cardiac arrest while playing.
Right,
This is
right.
perfectly okay. This is they're what I call palate cleanser games. There's
exactly
certain games after you've played something that's really intense or something that's really really good, you just play something that's kind of mindless, kind of fun." And it works that way. What about you, Wout?
Me and Destiny 2 are getting pretty serious right now. We've been going steady for months, to be honest. But it's still such a great game, and I really got hooked into the lore recently of the game, and that just makes everything even better. And there's a new season coming up next week, season 6, which I'm pretty excited about because they are still working very hard to keep that gameplay loop fresh with all the new things they're adding. I always have my gripes about some of the stuff they do, but I just can't stop coming back to the game. It's just so much fun. Like, it plays so incredibly well. And the more time you put into it, the more you appreciate it. It's very strange. But yeah, still Destiny 2 has been my go-to for months now. I try to sneak in a little bit of Smash Bros with my daughter every now and then, but Destiny 2 still is the big one.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Eric and I put in some serious work in Destiny 2 last year with the Halloween event and all that stuff. I freely admit I've been slacking. I've been really slacking over the last couple of months. But I saw the isn't it called Season of the Drifter?
Yes.
It's really focused on Gambit and like changing that whole arena up and whatnot.
A whole new thing. A whole lot of new interesting storylines. And for the first time, they're introducing a quest that you can play from both sides. You can either side with the Drifter, which looks like it's going in a pretty dark direction, or you can stay loyal to the Vanguard. And it's all about getting Thorn, a weapon from Destiny 1, which is like a cursed weapon, basically. So they've never done that before, so I'm very curious to see how storytelling-wise they're going to implement that, because it's a permanent decision that you make within the game, apparently, but not account-wise. So your characters can choose different sides, but we have no idea. We have no idea where they're going with this game, especially now that they're free from Activision. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, and it's such a satisfying game to play once you get into that rhythm of doing your bounties. And I have no reason to play it, to be honest, because I'm like maxed out power level, but I still keep coming back to chase that the dopamine drip of triumphs and trophies and all that stuff. So yeah, still entertaining me on a daily basis.
Right on.
Yeah. I have a raid tonight later, actually, where we're gonna cheese the rhythm for like 5 seconds, and then we're out of there again.
I feel so bad. I'm so terrible with my backlog. I literally bought Destiny 2 and the Forsaken expansion on sale for like $30 4 months ago, and I was like, yeah,
good luck catching up in that case. Yeah.
And then I'm like, review schedules, damn it, and it's still saying that. And now I have Anthem sing there too, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, those are time sinks, man.
From what I'm hearing about Anthem, and I'm thank God Jared isn't with us right now, but from what I'm hearing about Anthem, you have until May to take Anthem seriously because there's not really an end game, so to speak.
Well, hey,
right now.
I just want to have my little moment since Jared's not here, and basically say I was right about Anthem. So I feel very fulfilled right now, and Eric as well should feel very fulfilled.
I'm leaning back like Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon playing. No, that's not like a dunk. I'm just honestly, yeah, it's a bit of I won't say a relief. I feel okay waiting and kind of seeing how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like both just said, like if I'm going to spend that time, I'd kind of rather go back to Destiny, the game that I have already invested the time in, and
sure.
It has new content, so that's kind of where I like to go. Like, I'm not even sure about the Division 2 right now.
Yeah, I re-downloaded Destiny 1 just because I wanted to see it again, and wow, that's rough, man. Going back into that world.
I still stand by my statement that I made a few episodes ago in the years past that they should import the Destiny 1 content into Destiny 2 moving forward. Make it one giant live service platform so people can understand the story from the get-go. They can get attached from the get-go.
I actually thought when they first released Destiny, when they first talked about it, I thought that was their like goal for it was to have it as one continuous platform, similar to how like World of Warcraft is made, where it's just expansions on expansions on expansions. Obviously, other plans came up and Destiny 2 happened.
Yeah, and the cross-gen kind of held that back, I think, because the Destiny 2 launched on two platforms.
The fact that the engine was tethered to the 360 and the PS3, especially, that's going to do some stuff.
Destiny 3, man, I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do a big time loop in that game. Like lore-wise, we're ready for time travel in this game, so we'll see how they're going to fix that in Destiny 3.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I think unfortunately we have a bit of news to get to. Unfortunately,
I've literally just been in a game rut right now of I don't know what I want to play. Been playing some things on my Vita. Been playing a little bit of Xbox. Doing the big debate about starting Persona 5, but not sure if I have the time commitment for that. But. That's just the way it is right now. All the games I want to play are like 120 hours long, and I'm like, I get 2 hours to 3 hours a night. That means it'll only take me about a month and a half. Okay.
Yep.
I feel it's about deciding which games I want to sink the month and a half into. So that'll be.
I think. So I don't mean to cut you off. I think that's kind of why I've been a little bit reluctant to jump into something like Anthem, or even be a little reluctant about like Division 2, even though it looks like great. It's just. You know, I've talked to you guys about this before. Sam knows it. It's like I have so many great games sitting in my backlog, and I'm like, you know what? After going through The Witcher 3 last year and going through Bloodborne now, it's like I'm good with that right now. Just kind of going back and diving into those games, you know.
That's okay.
And there are many, and like Nick said, a lot of them are time sinks. You know?
Yeah, like you beat me. I have to deal with Baldur's Gate coming to consoles sometime this year. I'm guaranteed I'm going to lose my life for like 4 months.
I did not know that Baldur's Gate is coming to consoles. Like the original one?
First one, second one, all the expansions, and then a couple other of the spin-off games as well.
Sweet. I love Baldur's Gate.
Oh no, you just made a friend for life.
It's just one of the games that we're like in the very starting area, you can go to a bush and find like a super powerful random ring that's there. And that just blew my mind when I was a kid playing it. Like that they put a super powerful item like right in the beginning. But you just had to click on a random bush. I love that about that game.
Yeah, for sure. And this is my favorite guest we've ever had or will ever on this podcast.
Oh, God.
A man of taste.
Baldur's
All right,
Gate.
so we will get into the news. We've got a couple of news topics. Most of them won't take too long. This one's more of a fun one. So, THQ Nordic and whoever does their PR. I thought GOG had a bad PR team. Apparently, THQ Nordic was like, hey, we can do it worse.
Hold my beer.
Yeah. So typically when developers do an AMA, typically they'll rely on Reddit or they will do a live stream on a platform of their choice. Typically is the fallback one. Some developers still use 4chan. 4chan's a little bit better moderated. But THQ Nordic said they want to go completely against the grain, and they decided to go with 8chan, which for those that aren't familiar because it's basically been pulled from being searchable on almost every ISP available because of various things from child abuse to child porn and all sorts of nasty situations. So THQ Nordic decided this is where they were going to do their AMA, and don't worry, shout out to Mark. He's going to handle all the nasty stuff. And it's really funny. I can't remember who it was that posted on Twitter, but someone posted the threads that were on 8chan, and it was literally THQ Nordic's AMA, and then it was like a child porn thing, and then like a weird anime thing right above it. I'm just like, yeah, you had no idea this was going on. So THQ Nordic said that, no worries, we looked into this. It's fine. And the internet's like, no, you didn't. And then within, I'm going to say an hour and a half, they're like, oh, we're sorry. We didn't know. We had no idea. They weren't clear. So what are your guys' thoughts on THQ Nordic? Are they just tone deaf and dumb, or do you think there was a desire to be edgy, so to speak?
I need more drinks for this. But yeah, I don't know. It almost had to be deliberate because it's hard to fuck up that hard. Like, I think they might have underestimated it a little bit. But like, it sounded like they got an invite and they took it, but like without even doing a single Google search. Anyone's worth their weight in PR or even marketing, like, should no longer be in that job after that, because it's either stupid or it's like incompetent. Like there's only two options. So I don't know, man. Like I don't get mad thinking about it, but I just feel embarrassed for everyone attached to the giant brand nowadays. Like everyone who works there, who in studios, the dev teams, like they're just eating it right now.
Yep. And it's unfortunate because if people remember this for more than 2 weeks, it might affect people's developers' games for something they had no control over.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible outcome. I always kind of like excused, like, I won't say excused is the wrong word. When it comes to European, especially Eastern European developers, they're sometimes not as in touch with social political issues that are necessarily going on in the West, and I get that because that's a very regional thing. But there's no excuse for this because I'm sorry, child porn and child abuse, no matter where you are, you know it's wrong, it's a bad thing, and you should not go near a site that supports it, so to speak.
Well, not only that, Nick, not only that, but this is the thing for me. It's like, as someone who's engaged in PR from time to time on a weekly basis, unfortunately, like, your job as a brand manager, your job as a PR guy is to be paranoid. Your job is to worry about what associations might result in, or, oh, will this look bad on us? Or, oh, could this be misconstrued the wrong way? Your job is to fret and tear your hair out over that kind of stuff. So, yeah, if you somehow believe that this person didn't know what 8chan is, and unfortunately, I don't believe that they didn't know. But even if you do, there's no excuse. Then you're purely incompetent and you deserve to be fired. And frankly, they need to take action. The fact that they've been silent on this, I think they're just trying to make it go away, and that's not going to cut it. Not for something of this scale.
Yeah, because wouldn't their tweet kind of imply that they had some idea about it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, that kind of, hey, it's fine. You know,
in terms of what is nasty stuff they were referring to, like what was Mark supposed to be dealing with?
Yeah,
like,
I think they were hoping for the comments section, or like that they would moderate the thread and not like take care of the entire site's nasty stuff. But yeah, it was such a weird thing, because when you look at the post, they were actually engaging, and it was not like they were like, oh shit, like they should have noticed, but they were kind of going along with it. So it's but you know, the sad part is, like, we're going to talk about this now, and there was an article on Polygon about it today, and the next week people are not talking about it anymore, and 2 weeks later it's like
it's gone.
They can absolutely probably ignore this and just sit out for 2 weeks, because you never know nowadays how fast we get mad and how fast we forget, right? But oh Lord, man, like they had a contact person apparently. Their shout out to Mark. But you know how hard it is to get like an interview with a PR guy. So that dude, Mark, whoever he is, he probably someone who runs that site, had to reach out to them. They had to like have a conversation about doing this AMA. Like, and at no point in that part they checked it out. Like, if I reach out to a major studio for an interview, they're gonna look at my channel, how many viewers, like what the traffic is. And here they just went like, yeah, sure. Like, I can't believe that. I cannot believe that.
It's also important to note, thanks to some great Twitter users that dug up through comment sections and went through LinkedIn profiles, the gentleman that was in charge of THQ Nordic's PR, in his LinkedIn bio, he listed himself as PR management for THQ Nordic, looking to bring the brand to a new edged audience. Yeah. Was his goal. That since has been removed from his bio for some strange reason.
He should probably remove PR for THQ Nordic from his bio at this point.
Well, see, I think.
Oh, we lost him.
I think Dan is very far right winged and everything else, and there's a certain audience that sits on that far side of the fence that not a lot of developers or anything are trying to reach out to. So I think they were trying to see if they could connect with that audience without necessarily offending everyone else, and they did a terrible job, because what they did is they tried to appeal to the I'm going to call them extremists for lack of a better word. They tried to appease the extreme audience, but then pissed off 98% of the population. So then they apologized. So now they've got the people they're apologizing to mad at them, and they've also got the people they're trying to appease going, you didn't stand your ground against social media backlash. So now everyone's mad at them, and they've accomplished nothing.
No.
I have so many friends in PR, and I remember DMing my one friend and going, what's the move here? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I'd be packing up my desk right now if this was a move I made.
Yeah. I was talking to Will Powers 2 days ago, because I interviewed him for my next episode live on Monday, and he was also like it almost has to be planned, right? It was just dumb. Like this was incompetence, not unknowingly walking into that shit. I cannot believe that.
I can't believe with how hard it is to get a hold of PR, how hard it is to get them to respond to you back and everything else, just how challenging that whole aspect of the business is. I can't imagine just being like, hey, you want to come onto my site? And then being like, yeah, sure, we're not going to look into it at all.
Yeah. It was great for like Twitter shenanigans, like myself, who could dunk on it all day and like make funny gifs, and but yeah, for a brand, dear Lord, but like screw that guy that set it up. But like they bought so many studios that are all suffering under this.
Yeah. It's Bugbear. God, who are the others? I can't remember them off the top of my head, but like Warhorse recently as well, and there's several others. There's several studios. There's several IPs, and I know Imran Khan from Game Informer was talking on Twitter, and he said that he was talking to a lot of different people from the studios THQ Nordic has purchased, and word is they're not happy. No. They're like extremely unhappy.
To wrap up this topic, essentially, is you screwed up as a brand manager. And it's funny you bring up Warhorse, because head of Warhorse Studios, Daniel Vavra, actually tweeted out about this. And he said, it's mind-blowing that THQ Nordic is this irresponsible and misrepresents all of us in such a way.
Coming from him? Wow.
I'm sitting there going, oh boy.
When Vavra can dunk on you, I think you need to take a step back. That's all I'll say about it.
You need to take a step back and go, woof. We may have lost the high ground here, but it is what it is. I'm not going to forget about it. And the moment THQ Nordic tries to push out a game or buy something else, I'll be at the forefront going, you guys still suck.
Well, no, we do. In wrapping this up, we need to remember, because as a gaming industry, we move on way too quickly. We let things slide, and we can't let this slide.
Well,
we've got to remember.
Well, it's the same thing over the life of this podcast. This podcast's been around for just over a year now. We had the sexual assault scenario in Naughty Dog that disappeared. We had the David Cage scenario that popped up again with Quantic Dreams, and that got forgotten about again. And we've just had endless things. They're just terrible.
Yeah.
But people forget about them nonchalantly. Like,
unless you put a loot box in your game, then we never forget.
Right. Oh no, exactly. We're never going to shut up about it.
We need to, like, for these companies, they're like, treating their employees like garbage, or employees are being sexually abused. We need to keep that EA energy. Is what I need to see from people, because people are like, oh, that game's made by EA, it's automatically garbage. I'm like, how about we go, this is automatically garbage because they treat human beings like crap.
Yeah. Shout out to Rockstar.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
no, man.
Red Dead Redemption 2, 275 Game of the Year awards. Does anyone remember?
No, man, but it's like I've said, gamer priorities are like way out of whack over the last few years. Like, there was a time where games would band together over things like this to get like change to happen. If you were upset with a company, handling things a certain way, even like down to just the product, gamers would kind of band together. But now it's more like people would just rather spend time fake raging or going at each other over, frivolous things, and those things last for weeks.
Yeah,
like you guys said, this faded away. It's still there, but it's ultimately, based on the other things that we see daily, it's faded.
Well, so people try to dunk me on Twitter because I won't play Quantic Dreams games ever since that whole Ellen Page fiasco. Mm-hmm. Like, people are like, well, why don't you just buy the games and not support him? I'm like, well, if I buy the game, I'm supporting him. I just won't. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, you're being stupid about it. I'm like, no, it's just called that I'm not forgetting something that was stupid, that was crappy, that should not be forgotten.
Yeah, you can't play anything anyway, or everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's so many games that I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So we'll move on to the next topic. Division 2, which is a game I had interest in until my friends started hyping me up for this game. Now I'm insanely hyped. I don't even know what I'm getting myself into. Has shown off its year 1 content, and it's got a good stacked amount of content, 8-player raids, a bunch of stuff coming for the game. My biggest thing is, I know it's really important in the shooter-looter genre, as it may be, Destiny, Anthem, and whatnot. I know content roadmaps are super important for the player base, but is anyone else just kind of overseeing roadmaps for a game that's not out yet? Like, I'm sitting there going, oh, wow, look at all that content I'm going to get later.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, especially when games out of the box, like we've seen it with Anthem now, and we saw it with the original Destiny, and it's like, wow, this game's really great, but it sucks that I have to wait.
Yeah, but did Anthem have a roadmap? Because
Anthem has a 3-month roadmap, but essentially they're not adding in endgame content till April.
Yeah.
There's small stuff. There's like cosmetics. I'm sorry, Wild. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. But like we said, like, are we tired of roadmaps? Yes, probably. But also, Anthem doesn't do it, and Anthem is not doing well.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. Like, I mean, roadmaps are, but at least if you're going to have a roadmap, provide something your players can look forward to. I don't know. I had an extensive conversation with Jared, who unfortunately, again, is not here tonight, but he's the one who reviewed Anthem for us. And he's a big fan of Anthem. He likes the gameplay and the story and whatnot. But even he said right now, it's a very tough recommendation because there's no end game. There's no real raids. There's nothing to look forward to, like in terms of Destiny's Vault of Glass or whatever. The Cataclysm, I think, is what they're calling it in Anthem, until May. Like, late May is when that first is going to launch, and it's like, that's a little late. That's
I'm not gonna lie. Fallout 76, which I'm a Fallout fan till I die, but Fallout 76 is like my Achilles heel. that roadmap of content they have set with those massive expansions and everything else, those look great, but releasing that roadmap of content to celebrate 100 days since launch where you've added basically nothing, not a fan of it. So launch roadmaps are here and there. Is anyone here buying Destiny 2 day one, or you guys have prior engagements with other games?
Division I presume 2. You mean the Division 2.
Yeah. Don't mind me.
No worries.
I'll jump on that first. I'm more inclined to jump on the Division 2 before Anthem. That's going to come down to, again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wait to see how people are kind of gauging it and feeling about it. If I'm seeing, a good amount of hype or a good amount of positivity, and like, let's say you guys jump in, then that might make me move. But if it's sort of like a ho-hum, then yeah.
You know what? Ubisoft is basically selling me games just off of how awesome they've been over the past few years. The turnaround those guys have had, and the amount of good games they turn out and get very little to moderate credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were able to do to turn the original Division around, to bring the Assassin's Creed franchise out of Unity, and just all the different things they've done. They basically, all the failures they had at the start of this generation, they've made successful sequels to those games that have found success and fixed those and whatnot. So I'm getting Division 2 just on the sheer fact that I believe in Ubisoft. I believe in the fact that they're going to deliver exactly what they promised. The fact that they released, I think it was 7 pages of bug fixes and patches for the open beta versus the closed beta was, I'm sitting there going, that's quality of life stuff that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take a gamble on it and hold off for a little bit, because what I did with Division 1 was that everybody was hyping it up. It was a good game. So I was like, okay, I was kind of late to the party. So I bought it, got to level 7, and all my friends had moved on because I was just too late to the party. So I need to see how people are going to stick in this game. And maybe having a roadmap will help somewhat, because that is relatively new. We didn't have that around Division 1. But if it doesn't keep the player base high enough, and I have to play with just like online matchmaking, and I'm probably not gonna get it, because with these games, for me, what makes it fun is playing with friends or clanmates. So if it doesn't manage to keep people interested for at least a year, like, I'm not saying I'm gonna wait a year, maybe I'll get in a little earlier, but that is going to be a hard requirement for me to have people stick around, because I don't want to end up by myself again in a game like that, because then I'll just lose interest and move on to the next big shiny thing.
Yeah, I totally hear you, man. That was my issue with Destiny, with the original Destiny, and even Destiny 2 prior to the Forsaken expansion, which sort of smoothed things out, was, I have life issues. I have work that comes up. Yeah. I can't be here every single night, every single week, of my life. And so I need to be able to miss a couple of weeks, or even miss a month or 2 in a row, and then come back and it be all right, and me be able to jump in. So I'll say this, Nick, I'm definitely more interested in the Division 2 than I am in Anthem, which is not something I hope to say, frankly, given the aesthetics.
Right.
But
same here.
That's the way it is. They definitely seem to have a more comprehensive idea of what they're doing, of how they're going to hand things out for players. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see in May, maybe even June, post E3, where Anthem and Division 2 are both sitting, and I'll go from there.
Yeah. Before we move on, I think the Division 2 is the start of the shooter, looter, or schluter, if you want.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're making this a thing. I don't care. This is a thing. It's going to happen. I think the Division 2 is a start of these games figuring out how to launch with the amount of content that people want. Destiny 1 was very bare bones. The original Division was very bare bones. People had complaints. Destiny 2 launched similar complaints, but once again, Bungie managed to turn it around and balance it out and release a really good expansion. I think the Division 2 will be the first one that knocks it out of the park right off the bat, and I think whatever Bungie does next will do it as well.
Yeah,
because I think both Ubisoft and Bungie have learned a lot about what their audience wants, and that's what these games thrive around: is what does the community need or want. these games to be, because Destiny's struggle has always been, and it's something that's not even the developer's fault, is being open to casuals but also appealing to hardcore players. That's a very hard spectrum to nail down.
And they do it very well, that like you can come back a year later and just kind of catch up still. So if Division offers that like a year in and all my friends are still around and I can just power level through and join in on the fun, I'll be all in. Maybe if I already bought it, just didn't play it, it's fine too, right? I'll give Ubisoft my money. They deserve it.
Yes, I agree with that too. Like what Nick said, Ubi's like one of my favorite developers, and they did have that rocky point where, at one point in the generation, last generation, you could set your watch to them. Like you just had faith in everything they were doing, and they got a little bit rocky, through some of the Watchdog stuff, through some of the early Division stuff. And then I think what showed they had that resolve, and they were like, no, we're Ubi, like, we have like fan support and fans like trusting us. And that was when they started coming back with why am I drawing a blank on the game?
Assassin's Creed or Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
And the long tail that that game has. And then, like Sam just said, with like Assassin's Creed, which is one of my favorite, series, even I kind of walked away like around Unity. After Assassin's Creed 3 going into Uni, I was like, I'm kind of burned out on this. And then when they kind of took that time off, it's like they listened to the fans because fans were saying that, like we kind of need you to step back. So I definitely think they're going to address all the issues people have with the Division 1. Just, for me, a lot of it is time. Like time is just the thing that the commodity that I don't have as much of. So I really kind of have to plan out, what I want to play, how I want to play, where I want to spend that time,
They are launching very deep into the console cycle, though. So, like legs-wise, I think they have about a year until we're all gonna move on. So we'll see. We'll see how are you gonna be able to bring your Division 2 character into the next console generation. That's gonna be a big question too, because otherwise you kind of limit yourself to a year and a half max, I think, before we'll be playing new consoles, and then your user base is going to plummet. So we'll see. It's an interesting time to launch a game with a service model behind it in this late in the game. But
yeah, for sure. And I've got a lot of questions. That'd be a whole different topic of like what are going to happen to some of my favorite games this generation. Their service based. Like, what am I going to do with Overwatch? What am I going to do with Rainbow Six Siege? These are games I have hundreds and hundreds of hours in. But I'm like, am I going to get Overwatch 2 for my next generation console, or is it going to carry over? Like,
first time for this too, I think, because we didn't really have that on PS3, PS4, right? Service games.
Mm-hmm.
No, it'll be really interesting to see how that turns out. So on to a little bit of negative news. Overkill's The Walking Dead is officially dead, unfortunately. So.
Dead?
Re-dead.
Re-dead. So people don't know Starbreeze Games, who was one of the developers behind this game. They ran into a huge amount of financial problems. They've been having issues nonstop. The game launched on PC, did not do hot at all. It reviewed terribly. Sam did a review on it. It's probably one of the lowest scores I've ever seen him give a game.
I didn't even know it launched.
Me either.
Yeah, technically, like the first season launched on PC. It was, it's a limited launch, but it's not early access either. And I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to be like this. I hate giving games low scores unless they deserve it. But the reality is, it's just bad. That's just all there is to it. It was just plain bad. There was not really any redeeming value.
It's something I did not know. Skybound Games was co-founded by Robert Kirkman, who, of course, is the creator of The Walking Dead. Did not realize that he owned that company. So Skybound Games basically swooped in and essentially, from what it sounds like, pulled the license and said, as of today, we have terminated our contract with Starbreeze Studios. We will discontinue all efforts on Overkill's The Walking Dead. Our creators and their stories are the core of Skybound, and since 2014, we've worked hard to expand the world of Walking Dead into an exceptional co-op action FPS. We did our best work with Starbreeze and resolved many issues that we saw with the game, but ultimately Overkill's The Walking Dead did not meet our standards, nor is it the quality that we were promised. We are exceedingly sorry to our fans and shared their disappointment in the game. We remain dedicated to providing our fans with the most premium quality content we can offer, and we'll continue to look for alternative video game options for the IP.
I wish they cared that much about quality when season 6 and 7 was playing on TV of The Walking Dead.
I'm sitting there going, yeah, quality. That's what
and I love that show.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's my man's soap opera.
Yeah.
What can I say? Like I hear every complaint people have about it, and I agree with you 100%. And then I still sit down to watch it. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to say about this except I'm sorry. It sucks. I pray for those who were affected, but the reality is it just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
No, it was terrible. It was poorly optimized.
Did it follow any of the story beats of the Walking Dead comics or TV series?
Not really. It was the same themes, honestly, dude, rehashed of, oh, we have to pull together, but there are people out there who don't agree with us, and there are people who don't understand that civilization is the way. And I'm like, we've seen this done before. This has been done over and over and over. It's the same reason, and I'm not going to dare make this a topic, but it's the same reason I don't think The Last of Us needs to go on beyond part 2. I think that you need to cut it after that. Like, the post-apocalypse works as a character study. It's very difficult to sustain it as an idea because you end up rehashing the same humans are bad arguments. And
that's exactly why I fell off with the show. It's just, I mean, amongst other things, it's just kind of like, it's like we're doing the same thing with just different characters.
It's hard to keep that level of intensity because what I will say is the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead are probably some of the best television I've watched, with the exception of some shows like maybe Game of Thrones, and I have a really, really soft spot for Breaking Bad. But they're amazing seasons, and there's a lot of tension. But to keep that level of tension and that level of character drama going consistently without it getting dry or boring or repetitive is very, very hard.
Yeah.
But it sucks that this happened. Starbreeze Studios is pretty much done at this point. They filed for, I can't remember the correct terms. It was basically bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But they're basically done unless someone buys them up. So
THQ Nordic.
Here we go.
oh gosh.
And they're like, no.
Sales pitch on that. You make bad games, we make bad PR. We're a match made in heaven.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like we're missing much on this one.
Yeah. It sucks when games get canceled, but you can kind of understand when they do. And this is one of those situations where I definitely get it. Yeah. Now on to happier news for those that still have inner children or have children. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, which may be the most bizarrely named Pokemon games I've ever thought in my life, we're just using objects now. So they were announced, they released the next generation of Pokemon and what the next games will look like. That trailer, they showed off the starters. There's a really sad one, there's a leaf one, and there's a fire one. And I'm so sad that my inner child has basically died and I have no hype for Pokemon anymore. But I'm really excited for those that do still have that love for Pokemon. I don't get it anymore.
I've never had that love for Pokemon.
I missed the boat of Pokemon too.
Yeah, same here. It's just one of those things. It's
slightly
nerdy.
too old when it got popular.
Yep.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I just didn't get into it when I was a kid. I don't even remember why. It's not like I was forbidden or anything. It's just I didn't get into it. I will say I'm keeping an open mind. I'm doing my absolute best to keep an open mind. And if I see a bunch of people having fun, I might jump in and I might try it out and see what's going on and see if it gets its hooks in me. But yeah, I mean, congrats to those who are enjoying it. I wish you all the absolute best.
Yeah.
It looks fun.
Yeah, I can always be persuaded if there's a good game around it. It's just, I don't really, it's been there for so long, and there's like so many more. I know Pikachu and like some of the initial original Pokemon, but now it's at a point I'm like, I don't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because everyone knows I'm not a huge JRPG guy. And I was talking about how much I love Pokemon the one time. And shout out to Mr. Negative on Twitter, who chimed in when you do realize the Pokemon's a turn-based JRPG, right? And I had about 15 meltdowns because I never realized that up until that point.
That's the Mr. Negative effect. Like when he talks to you, you go into meltdown mode.
I just sat there and I just had this like dead expression on my face, and my wife's like, "You okay?" I'm just like, I just have my whole world shattered right now. I'm really excited for people. People still love Pokemon, obviously, because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee sold 10 million copies, which is bonkers. They sold those stupid little Pokeball attachments too with it, and those sold like gangbusters. So obviously the franchise is loved and well, and people still want to catch 600, and I don't even know how many there are anymore.
All of them.
Yeah, because I mean, people are still playing like Pokemon Go, like in like record numbers.
Yeah,
it's weird. There's a guy I work with. He's probably about 50, religious Pokemon Go player.
Yeah,
I do not understand it at all.
See, that part of it, like, I'm into it. Like I'm happy for people that are into it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not. Yeah, I see like Let's Go, Pikachu and Let's Go. I was like, my version is like just go.
Yeah.
So.
It's one of those games that makes the internet a little bit more wholesome, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And do you remember the like 3 weeks when Pokemon Go released and there was like
Peace on the planet?
Yeah, there was like it was so weird. Like my friend sent me a good friend of mine lives in like the core of downtown Chicago. And he said it was the first time where he could take his kids to the park, and it felt very, very safe because everyone was just on their phones trying to catch Pokemon.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think Pokemon Go actually like brought joy to the world on a level we haven't seen in a long time. Like there was such a worldwide phenomenon that I have never witnessed in my life before, other than maybe when your country plays in the World Cup, soccer or whatever sport you love. Like that is the kind of unity that you briefly get, and Pokemon Go did that almost globally. Like that is a very, very big achievement. Go Pokemon Go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was one of the most bitter people about it because I was that old man yelling, "It was only good when it was on Game Boy." And I realized how much of a pessimistic asshole I was being through that whole thing. I feel bad about it now, but it is
as long as you feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's what matters.
Yeah.
If you feel bad.
Joke's on you. I always feel bad. So we're going to move into our discussion topic. And this is one that I've been saving for a while, mainly because everyone who watches this show already knows my top 3 RPGs, so I feel like I don't even have to say it. But a couple of people asked in the chat last week about what some of our favorite RPGs were. It was too late in the show to get into it, so I figured now would be a great time to talk about some of our favorite RPGs. So I hope I gave everyone enough time to prepare for this because I spent up until about 20 minutes before the show started to nail down my third one. So, Eric, top 3 RPGs and a little bit of a spiel about them, but we won't get too carried away with it, of course.
Okay, let's see. And, I got a feeling like Sam and I are probably going to step on each other a little bit.
Probably, but that's us in general, so that's okay.
Yeah. You want me to go all 3, or we want to like alternate, or what?
Yeah, all 3 in a row.
All 3. Okay, I'm gonna jump out there. The Witcher 3, naturally. Bloodborne.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw like a little curveball, and this might actually spark a little bit of debate because I'm sure that people would disagree. But I'm gonna throw Dishonored out there.
Okay, all right.
It's probably more considered an action game, but it has RPG elements to it.
Immersive sims are such a weird genre to nail down. I'll allow it.
I'll allow it on the fact that there's separate endings and your choices do affect a lot of how the game plays out. So I'll give you that one.
Right, and it gives you freedom to kind of go about it the way you want.
And you calling Dishonored an RPG doesn't bug me nearly as much as people calling Horizon Zero Dawn an RPG. So it's fine.
Yeah.
It's RPG light. If you're gonna stretch it, that's like light, I guess. But then again, like I said, I'm throwing Dishonored, and I'm sure people would disagree. But
I'd like to see Dishonored get the shine.
Yeah. It's gonna be either that. I was gonna throw Final Fantasy 15, but then I didn't want to be called a fraud because that was like my first Final Fantasy. So people,
I
know Megan is probably would be like, oh. You know.
I mean, that's
maybe
actually
my
my
hot take.
favorite Final Fantasy, so you'd be okay.
Yeah. And then my other would have been Fire Emblem, but you know.
Those are all great picks. I've never played a Final Fantasy game in my life, so that is something I need to fix. But it's become an issue of where do I start? I thought about, I'll make a poll, and then I was like, no, I don't want to make a poll because I'm just gonna have people fight about which one's the best.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, just to expand a little bit, The Witcher 3 was, as Sam will attest to, a long adventure for me, and one I had to make, sort of a concession, sort of a penance to the gaming gods for, because I kept putting it off in favor of other games. And for the life of me, when I did play through it, I was kind of like, why did I put any other game off for this game when this game should have just been, I don't know what it was. But once I committed to it and I'll rock with it, it's just, that world is just amazing. The side quests alone are better than some full games. And it's just, I mean, it's just an amazing world. As far as Bloodborne, being that that's very fresh in my mind, if you look at how most people talk about Bloodborne, you'll get some people that will say initially it didn't grab them, and Bloodborne was another one that kind of started, put down to the side. But once I again sat down with it, you'll hear most people say there's a part in it that just clicks, and all of a sudden when that thing clicks in you, you can't stop. You just keep going with it, and it's just the way the world is laid out. Each area, everything makes sense. It's all connected. There's a great lore. And it just gives you this freedom to go about, you'll get people, you'll talk to people about it, and you'll have a different way that somebody handles something, and you'll talk to people and they'll say, well, this boss was a breeze for me, but this boss, I got hung up on it, and vice versa. So, and then with Dishonored, I just think Dishonored is just a completely ignored franchise, and I can't understand why. Just again, another world that's just amazing. It's the story behind it, the lore behind it, the characters you meet, the freedom that it gives you to kind of play through the world. I don't know. I can't say enough about Dishonored. It's just one of my favorite franchises. I wish more people would experience it and play it. So there you go.
There you go. Nice, dude. Nice.
I absolutely agree. And you guys keep talking about Bloodborne. I'm sitting there going, I need to.
We're getting the gank squad ready to go suffer in the co-op dungeon. So,
and here's the thing. I want to say this to you, Nick. I know you said, when it comes to overly difficult games, you kind of, not that you can't play them, but you're selective about them, right?
Yeah.
You beat Cuphead. You handled the devil in Cuphead without being hit. You can do Bloodborne, bro.
I started to realize that because I kind of put Bloodborne down because I'm like, these games get incredibly hard at the end really, really quickly, and I just get very frustrated very quickly. And then beating Cuphead and then Celeste back to back, and I went, you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I do have the patience now. I just was not a very patient person up until having kids. Having kids definitely changed my patience level in a way I never thought possible.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And you know what's great about a game like Bloodborne, and you probably found this in Cuphead, if you truly don't let the frustration get to you, you'll realize that this game is not unfair. It's just I'm being too eager, and I'm not figuring out what the dance is. There's a dance here that I'm not figuring out.
Yeah. For sure.
My first 3 hours in Bloodborne was me not finding a lever and thinking the game was broken.
I feel that on an emotional level. All right. I'm interested in this one for a couple of reasons. So, Sam, top 3.
This is difficult. This was really, really difficult for me because it's like, do you count the RPG that got you into the genre or the one that made you love the genre? So in no particular order, I'll go ahead and get this one out of the way. Come on, The Witcher 3. You know me.
Mm-hmm.
You know my brand. All right? It's an incredible adventure. CD Projekt Red did an incredible job with the storytelling, the characters, the cast, making you fall in love with them, even if you haven't read the books like I have, even if you haven't played the other 2 games, the first 2. you understand them. You want to be in this world. You want to live it, to breathe it, to see it. You want to care for these people. And the way it takes you along for a ride feels like a 6 or 7 season HBO show. It's one of those grand epic stories where, I don't know, I'm sure you felt this way, Eric, when you first finish it, when you first put it down, you just have to take a moment and breathe and go, okay, that happened. And I'm not going to get over it anytime soon. It's one of those stories that stays with you. So my second RPG pick, I don't know if any of you three have played this, is Dragon Age Origins. Put your hand up if you have or whatnot.
I have not. I started it and put it down.
Love that game.
It is one of BioWare's best, in my opinion, which is saying something for them. I've probably played it 7 or 8 times. I know I've played each Origin story at least once, and a couple of them a couple of different times. Dwarf Noble for the win, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of those, again, incredible stories that it feels like a dark, epic fantasy. But again, it's that BioWare storytelling where you love these characters. You want to bond with them. Morgan is an utter witch in every sense of the word, but I want to get to know her. I want to care for her. I want to make sure Alistair finds his role in his life. I want Liliana to be okay, and all these others, even Shale, pigeon stomping and everything. And it turns some fantasy tropes on its head, but it still plays a couple of them by the books. It's really well done. I know it hasn't aged well in terms of visuals. It was a 2009 game. Yeah, November 2009 when it first came out. But if you haven't ever played it, it's dirt cheap and easy to get a hold of. You owe it to yourself to go play it, because the storytelling and writing there is absolutely fantastic.
Heavily influenced by A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes, absolutely. If you are a fan of not just Game of Thrones, the show, but the books that the Game of Thrones show is heavily based on, adapted from, then yes, you will recognize some of the stuff at work within the first couple of hours. You will understand what's going on there, and it's very, very good. So it was really tempting for me to say Knights of the Old Republic for my third pick. It was really, really tempting. It was really, really close. That is a game I absolutely love. But the reason I'm not going to pick it is, at the end of the day, I love you, Drew Karpyshyn. It's Star Wars, and it had that advantage. It has that nostalgia advantage. It has that emotional advantage at the end of the day, being based in Star Wars. So my third pick is actually the original Mass Effect, another BioWare game. And I get that it hasn't aged well gameplay-wise, okay? I get that. It hasn't. It's really clunky nowadays. But back in the day, this thing was incredible. This was one of those games that, early on for the new generation of the 360 and the PS, just the 360, now that I'm thinking about it, it made you realize, okay, this is what next gen is about. These stories, this epic space opera. And spoiler alert for a game that came out over, 12 years ago, okay? But seriously, if you haven't played it by now, what are you doing? But the way it takes you from tracking down a rogue commando, a rogue Spectre agent, to realizing that the fate of the galaxy is at stake, and the way it handles these reveals. BioWare storytelling used to be second to none. That's just all there is to it. I have spent so many hours in the Mass Effect universe through all 3 games, and I appreciate all 3 games, even Mass Effect 3 and even Mass Effect Andromeda. I appreciate, but it started with Mass Effect. It started with that story. And I actually got a chance to talk to Drew Karpyshyn last year. And he talked about how when the team was developing Mass Effect, they just sat down for 9 months and wrote. That's all they did. They just wrote for 9 months. Okay, this is this codex entry, and this is what this alien species is going to look like. And that preparation doesn't really happen for most games. For most games, pre-production involves development. It involves getting concepts right, or, like for Horizon Zero Dawn, it involved getting the bow combat nailed down, or realizing that they couldn't do co-op. But for Mass Effect, it was just writing. And you really, really feel that. And I miss that kind of passion. I miss that kind of emotion in their stories, honestly. So yeah, that's me. That's my little trip down memory lane.
2 BioWare games and The Witcher 3. That was kind of where I predicted it would fall.
Can I ask that one question before we move on, though? Where do you stand with Inquisition?
Inquisition, I neither hate nor love it. How's that? I don't hate it. I think it was a step in the right direction. I appreciate some of the stuff they tried to do with it. some of the stuff they tried to do with stuff. But on the other hand, The Witcher 3 came out 7 months later. And that kind of made me realize how dated some of the concepts were and how, honestly, it didn't need to be as open as it was. I mean, people getting lost in the hinterlands is a meme for a reason. Okay? There's a reason that's a bit of a joke. Like, I don't want to... I'm sorry, RPGs. I don't want to collect 20 bear butts. I don't want to collect 15 flowers anymore. I'm over that kind of thing. I want interesting storytelling. I want characters and people that either make me roll my eyes or groan or go, oh gods, you've got to be kidding me, or that I want to fall in love with, or I want to hate and I want to kill them and I want to get revenge. I want to feel something from my RPGs. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too needy, but that's the way I am.
I just gotta make the comment just for the sake of it. Of you got Mass Effect and you've got Witcher 3. You love games with terrible combat, don't you?
Wow.
We will not do this.
Don't do this.
We're not doing this? Okay. All right. So, how about you?
So I'm going to age myself terribly, I'm afraid. So it's hard to pick 3 favorite games because for me, like, it's not about what I found the best games, but like the ones that the most impact me. So I'll start with not really in a specific order, I guess, because I can't rank these guys. Suikoden, the first one, is one of my all-time favorite games, and I think I love it so much because I just played it at the right time when I was a little younger. Second one, Persona 4 Golden. Which I played relatively recently on the Vita, and the third one I wasn't sure if I was allowed to pick an MMO RPG, but that would be Asheron's Call, which was one of the first MMOs that I ever seriously played. The heavy role-playing aspect to it because it was player-driven, where if you were I was actually in a role-playing guild, so I figured that would qualify as a role-playing game. So Suikoden, the first one, is one of the first games I ever set my alarm clock for. When I was still in high school, I would set it at like 4:30 in the morning so I could play an hour and a half before having to get ready for school, or 2.5 hours, I guess.
Nice.
It was just so good, and it helps when you're like 14 years old and like you're just getting in touch with your empathy and emotions and whatever. And then when you see self-sacrifice, that just hit me like a bag of bricks. Because that was a relatively new concept, like people actually dying in your video games back then, people you actually genuinely cared about. Because I'm not sure, like, I'm not going to say spoilers because this is a game from like 1992 or whatever, but Gremio, your big brother, basically in that game, he sacrificed himself so you can move on and lead to resistance. And that moment, like, if you see it now, it's probably like super basic on an emotional level, but for a 14-year-old back then, it's like, oh my goodness, twist the knife, why don't you? So that's why I always remember this very fondly, because it was one of the first time that a game actually elicited some emotion from me other than I'm killing everything. So that was great. Persona 4 Golden, I never cared about the Persona series, but that was just a game I played because I was like, oh, all right, I'll play it because everybody's talking about it. It's on the Vita, and boom, 180 hours later, I have like played 3 or 4 consecutive playthroughs, pretty much maxed it out. And I was commuting because my daughter was just born. So I had an hour on the bus back and forth. It was perfect for the Vita. And that game is just so comfy. Like, I don't know what it is about this game. Like, it feels so comfortable to walk around in Inaba and having your little niece around, because that is, the big emotional heartstring that they put in that game. Because I don't really care about it's very teenager, right? Like the teenage levels of relationships that you build, and there's definitely some problematic themes in that game. But to be fair, like those are things like teenagers probably aren't really good at. Like we can't project our adult wokeness on a 15-year-old Japanese guy that is just getting in touch with his sexuality, I guess.
Sure. He's figuring that stuff out. It's like, be reasonable.
But if you take it out of context, it's pretty bad how they present it, right? But I think they do a relatively okay job. I'm not sure if it was intentional that they did a good job, but like you can kind of place it in a way. Okay, this makes sense for that character to act that way. So I just love that game. Like I love that game. And then I played Persona 5 and I died out of boredom. So it's definitely not it's just a Persona 4 thing that I loved about it so much. Persona 5 did not do it for me. And Ashran's Call. Have you guys played Ashran's Call, or do you know what it is in general? Because
I know of it, but I've never played it myself.
And that was the game where for the first time I felt like I was in a magical world because you could interact with other players. It was open world, so you could go anywhere, and it was such a sandbox that the player base itself kind of built how the game worked. So I was part of a PvP server. There was only one, and clans within that game kind of took territory. So where you could hunt and you could get XP, and clans were constantly battling for resources around like good kill spawns or good dungeons you could have. Because you could bind yourself to like what's called a life stone. So every time you died, you would resurrect at the life stone. So if all you and your clanmates all bound yourself to the same stone, you kind of became the boss of that territory. Unless a different clan came in and just made your life so miserable that you were like, fuck it, I'm just gonna live in another town. And that game was just so good, and the magic system was so good because the PvP really had a skill aspect to it, because the way you could dodge with your spells and how the tracking worked, it was just fantastic. The game was so good. Like now, if you look at it, it looks like crap. But the whole thing had it, like how you had one clan dominate the entire server until people like rallied together just to kick them off, basically, because they were controlling all the good spawns. Like I've seen wars in that game that were just amazing. And then I was there with a small group who were playing RPGs where we aligned ourselves with like a monster. We decided that was like a part of our group. We were saving the monsters. And it was just so much fun because people didn't know how to deal with it, because it was a super toxic, probably, environment where people were like trashing each other all the time. And then you had this small group of actual role players that people started wondering if we were actually part of a developers team was trying to create a narrative within the server. It was just fantastic. And if you read up on some of the things that they did, I don't want to go too much over, but they had an event where a crystal had to be destroyed for the game to move on, but it could kill players. And every time it killed a player, it would level up. So what we organized with our server was we're going to fuck over the other server, and we're going to go in there and commit suicide on that crystal and power level an enemy so far that it became unkillable, and that grinded the entire game to a halt for that entire server because it became undefeatable, because people from other servers just fed it XP, basically. Like, everything was possible in the game, and it was just so good. I miss that game daily.
I remember reading something. Now that you're saying that, well, I remember reading something about it. I couldn't have told you what the game was, but I remember reading about an MMO where like people were feeding into a crystal and they were just buffing it up and buffing it up and buffing it up to the point it couldn't be stopped. It's like that's MMOs in general, MMORPGs are fascinating studies for player behavior and for figuring out how people are going to react, because in general, if you let people act out any way they want, they will.
Yeah, you know? And there was another, like a unique enemy, the White Rabbit, which was like a Monty Python reference. That was already super powered, but it would also level up the more players it killed. So there was a whole team getting themselves killed by that rabbit, and then they trained it, like an aggro train into one of the biggest populations in the city. And then it started aggroing like everyone who was just shopping there, and it destroyed like an entire town. It was so cool, that the stuff you could do in the game. They don't build them like that anymore, I think.
No, not at all. Not at all. Wow. You know what I love about this? And I know Nick has yet to go, but I think he's only going to reinforce this. I love the kind of variety we've had in here. Yeah. I love the broad variety of different RPGs, from JRPG to Western to MMO. It's good. Go play RPGs, people.
So I'm good. Mine has a runner-up because it didn't feel right putting it on the list because it's kind of a bad game, but it made me fall in love with RPGs when I was super into things like Halo and Call of Duty, and I was just doing tournaments. And that is South Park: The Stick of Truth, one of probably the most dumb games I've ever played.
Awesome game.
But the pop culture references, just the South Park humor with very simple turn-based combat, but still really, really fun, and actually told a semi-decent story. And it was a lot of fun, and it came at a time where I wasn't playing those kind of games, and that kind of made me start going in a different direction, the kind of games that I played. So it's certainly important, but not necessarily the best RPG that's ever been made. But so the first one is Undertale for me, because I absolutely love the premise of being able to play a whole game without killing a single thing. That's how I played through Undertale. The pacifist route is super rewarding while being very challenging. There's every turn they challenge what you think is a game and what you should do. Because you're so programmed when you're playing video games to, oh, there's a boss. I'm going to hack and slash him with whatever techniques I need to do or whatever the case may be, and we'll get through it. But some of the things they throw at you in Undertale and some of the ridiculous ways to passively beat a boss. It's been a while since I played it. I've started playing it on the Vita again since I bought a Vita 2 weeks ago. Because, of course, I buy a Vita a week and a half before they stop production, because why not? So I started playing that again. It's so good. There's something that's so funny but wholesome about it at the same time. And it can really challenge your thought pattern on specific things. So it's really interesting game, and I highly recommend it, too. It's very short. It's 6 hours, 8 hours, maybe. It's not a very long game, but it's a trip. Number 2 will come as a surprise to no one. It's Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is why I scream from the rooftops that Obsidian needed more money, and people need to understand the level of quality that studio can output. Yes, it was a Fallout game, so it was a buggy disaster. I had the benefit of a doubt of falling in love with the Fallout franchise because of my wife. When we first started dating, she got me into Fallout 3. So then I bought the Ultimate Edition of New Vegas that had all the DLC, and a lot of the bugs have been patched. I just loved that game. And I just loved how there was 4 different factions you could align yourself with, and how they would challenge your moral vibe. Like, it took in order to do this, because each ending had achievements, so I did each ending. The amount of times I had to grit my teeth during the Legion playthrough of being like, yes, enslaving women is okay. We don't need killing children is okay. This is the way of society now. It was painstaking, and some of the things they made you do, you sit there and you're like, is this worth the achievement in this game? And if anyone knows me, yes, it is. It's a really, really good game, and it was one of the first Fallout games where I felt like, outside of the old PC games, of course, where I felt like your choices actually mattered. They didn't feel like they mattered in Fallout 4, but in Fallout New Vegas, every action had a consequence, and I loved that aspect of the game. And I really, really hope Bethesda can figure their issues out and deliver a Fallout game that the fans not only want, but what they deserve in terms of quality and storytelling and whatnot. And the final one is so on brand for me, it hurts. Is Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Am. I love that game. I loved all 8 discs of it on PC. I loved every second.
Remember discs?
Yeah. I remember that because it 8 discs plus the final chapter DLC. I was like, oh, my mom used to be like, how do you have time for this? I'm like, well, it's because I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and play it 4 hours before you get up. That game, people make a lot of jokes with me about it because it is my all-time favorite game, and a lot of people haven't played it because it's one of those 90s PC games, or early 2000s, sorry, PC games, and a lot of people go, oh, it's not that great, it's just an old PC game, it's the nostalgia and whatnot. But that game, when I was in high school, got me through some of the roughest parts of my life, and it's absolutely being able to get lost in that world and being able to play a character 100% in tune with how you think, how you believe, the amount of dialogue options. Most dialogue options had anywhere between like 5 to 8 dialogue options that all conveyed complex emotions or how you could feel in a scenario. And you never felt like you had to fake it through and be like, well, I guess this is the closest thing to what I do. There was always felt like there was an option of, this is what I do in this situation. And it was just a game I lost numerous amount of time on. And when it comes to console, I'll lose even more time on it. And I just look forward to, I play through it at least once a year. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I really hope when it comes to console, BioWare will sign me that check and get me to promote the hell out of it.
Fair enough.
So that's my RPG list. That kind of wraps up the show as well. Do you guys have any closing thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah, I just have to point this out. The only reason I didn't mention Dragon's Dogma as the best RPG is because I see it more like an action-adventure game. Otherwise, I would be all over that, of course.
Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma.
I had that one lined up to play also.
You know what? That game is great. I don't care what anyone says. That game was amazing for what it was. And people,
perfect game. Perfect.
People gave it way too much flack. It was great. I had a blast with it, and it's something I need to go back and play again.
Play it on the Switch in April.
It's coming to the Switch in April?
Yes, it is.
Huh.
And you know, Hideaki Itsuno has said that once he's done with Devil May Cry 5, which comes out in just a week, I believe, just 7 days, hard to believe, that he's actually open to doing a Dragon's Dogma 2 in the future. That he's down for that. So I cannot wait for that.
You know what's funny? I didn't realize he followed me on Twitter. So I hope he sees my passion for that game.
He was single-handedly convinced him that Dragon's Dogma 2 was worth doing.
Exactly.
There is a prophet among Twitter.
People deserve.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap up and do outros. We'll do Sam and Eric first. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert. You can find everything I write on tickgamesnetwork.com. We had a bunch of reviews drop over the last month or so. Devil May Cry 5, that's coming out in just a week, and you can be darn sure we're covering that. And yeah, the game train doesn't stop. It just keeps on rolling. So,
for sure. And Eric?
Yeah, been another great show. Always great talking to you guys. You can find me Wednesday night also on the Brad Podcast at 9 o'clock. Yes.
Right on. And where can people find you and find all your information?
Well, I am the hashtagonist on Twitter. The O and the N is a 0 if you really want to have to type it out. Thank you for having me. This is fantastic. I can do this any day, talk about video games with awesome people. You guys do great work. And if you want to check out my show, it's on YouTube. Just Google the Hashcast. I had a great interview with Rami Ismail from Vlambeer last week. I'm pretty proud of the episode, so check it out. And if you're an Easy Allies fan, before that I had Ian Hink from the Easy Allies, which is a lovely person to talk to as well. So check it out. Check out my channel if you like it. Smash that subscribe button, as they say.
Hammer that like.
Yeah. And no, anytime, guys. This was fantastic.
Yeah, having you on, man. Thank you.
It was absolutely fantastic having you around. You know, I love following you on Twitter. You obnoxious food posts and all, you brighten up my day. You really do.
That's
and
fine.
you're a really positive force on Twitter. And frankly,
Mhm.
like getting serious for a moment, that is something that is seriously lacking.
Yeah.
That's something that really doesn't happen that often. That's something that a lot of people could learn from. And you do an awesome job.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate it because I put a lot of effort in it to make the world a better place. One stupid tweet at a time.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely, you need to go listen to his content as well. The amount of industry people he gets on a week-to-week basis is absolutely mind-blowing to me. As someone who also has to book guests and everything else, and the endless amount of learning that I've done through listening about different aspects of various different sides of the industry. It's really interesting stuff. If you're interested in that kind of stuff at all, definitely check it out. Well, thank you for coming on. You can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI. You can find my articles at Tick Games Network. I did one about the PlayStation Classic today that just went out, so you guys can check that out. And I have one dropping on Monday, which is about What Remains of Edith Finch, Dusk, Paratopic, and a handful of other games, and what do they all have in common. So stay tuned for that. I want to thank you guys for tuning into episode 37 of the Gaming Perspective podcast, and we will see you guys next week with a special episode and maybe, just maybe, a very special guest. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday.